Wagwan. Good morning, good night. Welcome back. And if you're listening for the first time, I'm your host, Melanie Byfield, welcoming you to another episode of The Real Situation, where we give you a taste of Jamaican politics. You enjoying the World Cup? I'm loving it personally. My favourite World Cup moments gotta be when the big boss get a run out. Umiatak, Neymar, of course, and Cabo Verde going through to the round of 32, and they'll face Argentina. Oh, a World Cup fact: Saudi Arabia actually beat Argentina 1-0 in the first group stages in 2022. So it's all about what happens on the day, right? As for the GOAT, he's a Brazilian. His mother named him Edson Arantes de Nascimento. We call him Pele. I saw a quote recently: Pele is the greatest, Messi is the best. No, I gotta argue with that. What's my least World Cup moment? Every time I hear some pundit call MetLife Stadium in New Jersey the New York, New Jersey Stadium. Yeah, apparently the name only, it was temporarily changed because of some FIFA rule about non-commercial names for stadiums. And in addition to that, so I believe I read that New York and New Jersey actually have some agreement, to host together. Whatever. So, touching on two huge topics in Jamaican politics right now. Third country nationals, TCNs. The Memorandum of Understanding signed between the Jamaican and US governments regarding persons being deported to a country that's not where they're originally from, right? And this is pursuant to the current US administration's immigration policy. The U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts, however, did declare the policy unlawful and set it aside. The decision is currently under appeal, but the policy is permitted to continue until such time as the appeals court makes a ruling. From the Jamaican side, though, there's a lot that still seems unclear. For example, Dr. Kenneth Russell, opposition MP for South East St. Anne, asked a couple of questions in Parliament. One of them was, what is the person's status before coming to Jamaica, and are they in US custody? Couple of different answers here. So the US Secretary of State said, and I quote, we want to send you some of the most despicable human beings to your countries. The further away from America, the better, so they can't come back across the border. The professor of Caribbean Sustainable Development at UWI, Anthony Clayton, noted that in most cases the people being deported have applied for asylum in the US, but they've been rejected, or they've committed offences such as visa violation. He said in the past people would have ordinarily been deported to their country of origin, except in cases where it was clear that they would face persecution or death if they were sent back. He goes on to say the TCN agreement has been controversial because people are deported to countries where they do not have citizenship, no family, no history, and no connections. In some cases, they don't speak the language of the receiving country, they don't understand their legal rights, and there are reports from the UN and other agencies that some have been badly treated, tortured, or sent on to the countries where they feared persecution or death. Now, University of West Indies, UWI lecturer in the Department of Government, Damien Gordon, called the proposed deal a furtherance of the current US administration's radical anti-immigration policy that disproportionately targets immigrants of colour from Africa and Central America. What did National Security Minister and Deputy Prime Minister of Jamaica, Horace Chang, have to say? He said that individuals with criminal antecedents will not be accepted under this arrangement, as Jamaica's security considerations remain paramount. He said TCNs will be allowed to roam freely in Jamaica as they will not be incarcerated. He indicated they will be properly vetted and can ask for asylum. Dr. Chang also said the details of the MOU, which was signed last Thursday, will not be tabled in Parliament. The government has not confirmed when the first group of TCNs is expected to arrive. So another question that came up was, where will they live? Dr. Chang recently dismissed claims that any TCNs will be housed in St. Mary, stating that this will be the responsibility of the International Organization for Migration. So, we're going to keep following these developments. Sticking on that subject just for a second longer, there's a website called thirdcountrydeportationwatch.com, and they have agreements by country. So here are the countries that they have on their website that are involved in these TCN agreements, right? Antigua and Barbuda, Belize, Burundi, Cabo Verde, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Costa Rica, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Dominica, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador, Equatorial Guinea, Eswatini, Ghana, Guatemala, Guyana, Honduras, Kosovo, Liberia, Libya, Mexico, Moldova, Palau, Panama, Paraguay, Poland, Rwanda, Sierra Leone, South Sudan, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Uganda, and Uzbekistan. And with this website, you can actually go on and you can they give a summary of what the agreements are with these countries and basically how things have been going. Some of them a little bit hairy, scary, and others, seem relatively straightforward, so to speak. But that website, thirdcountrydeportationwatch.com, again, it gives you a summary of basically what's transpired in each of these countries. Okay, second time around. You know that tune there? Yeah. Okay, why the second time around? Second time around for alleged worries and troubles for Dr. Andrew Wheatley. Who is Andrew Wheatley? He's the Minister of Science, Energy and Technology, and he's also the Deputy General Secretary of the JLP, and he's in his second term as a Member of Parliament for South Central St. Catherine. Now, there was an article, an editorial, I believe it was in The Gleaner, called Why Wheatley Should Go. And I'm going to read you, this article it basically sums up, this whole situation with Andrew Wheatley. So it says, when Andrew Wheatley, and I'm just picking parts, it's not the entire article, right? When Andrew Wheatley was forced to resign from the government 8 years ago, he said that his decision was in keeping with his belief in the tenets of good governance and commitment to upholding the public trust. This is necessary to reassure the public that the highest standards of probity are being applied to the administration of the affairs of public bodies under the portfolios over which he had charge, Dr. Wheatley said. And he was right. Indeed, Prime Minister Andrew Holness acted responsibly in demanding the resignation of his then Minister of Energy, Science and Technology. A similar obligation rests more profoundly on both men today. The events surrounding Dr. Wheatley's downfall in 2018 related to the scandal at the state-owned Petrojam oil refinery, one of the public bodies that fell within Dr. Wheatley's portfolio. specifically allegations swirled of corruption, cronyism, nepotism, loose spending at the refinery, much of which were confirmed in investigations by the Contractor General and the Integrity Commission and aired by the Parliament's PAC and PAAC. The article goes on to say that, however, while the investigations and parliamentary hearings tarnished Dr. Wheatley for his perceived tolerance, and as a beneficiary of a culture of permissiveness at Petrojam, he escaped formal censure, although some people lost their jobs and even faced prosecution. Dr. Wheatley was out of cabinet for over 7 years while remaining a parliamentary backbencher. He returned to the government last September after the general election, when Dr. Holness named him as a minister in the office of the Prime Minister responsible for science and technology. It is not clear if Prime Minister Holness was aware that Dr. Wheatley was being investigated by the IC when he was returned to cabinet. For as bad as Dr. Wheatley's circumstances may have been in 2018, what he faces now is far more egregious. The prosecutor at the Integrity Commission has ruled that he should be charged for corruption, or rather illicit enrichment. In a report tabled in Parliament last week, after a long investigation into Dr. Wheatley's financial affairs, Kevon Stevenson, the IC Director of Investigation, concluded that the Cabinet Minister, over a 9-year period, acquired or owned 164 million in assets disproportionate to his lawful earnings. That's about $1 million US. Dr. Wheatley has challenged the investigative findings, claiming, for instance, that the Commission appeared to have been ignorant of the permissibility of the structure of one of his real estate joint ventures. The Commission was wrong, he told Parliament, in not taking into account approximately 168 million in rental income, which I lawfully accumulated and declared over the 9 years. The Gleaner's editorial board has arrived at no conclusion, it goes on to say, of Dr. Wheatley's innocence of guilt or guilt. These are not frivolous allegations. A reasonable and seasoned prosecutor would not be expected to flippantly prefer them. Whatever the final outcome of this matter, Dr. Wheatley's continued presence in the cabinet at this time casts a shadow on the upholding of good governance, transparency and equality under the law. In other words, justice must not only be done, but must be seen to be done. His place in the cabinet, the primary instrument of government policy, lends to the perception that he's in a position to lay a thumb on the scale. It also has the potential for further eroding public trust in the institutions of the state, which Prime Minister Holness cannot allow to happen. Wheatley has maintained his position regarding the allegations, and the matter remains subject to legal proceedings. So, who else is weighing in on this Wheatley matter? JAMP, and also the PSOJ. Who said that given the seriousness of the allegations and the responsibilities attached to the Cabinet Office, both Dr. Wheatley and Prime Minister Holness should give serious consideration to the Minister stepping aside until the matter is fully resolved. The PSOJ goes on to say that such a step, if taken, would serve to preserve public confidence, protect the integrity of the office, and reinforce the strength of Jamaica's governance framework. The Jamaica umbrella groups of churches also weighed in, saying that from a constitutional and biblical perspective, those entrusted with authority are called to exercise that authority with integrity, transparency and accountability. These are not merely legal obligations, these are moral responsibilities that sustain public confidence and strengthen democratic governance. The organisation argued that Wheatley's stepping aside would not amount to an admission of guilt, but would instead protect the integrity of cabinet and public trust in government. It further warned that failure to act decisively risked sending a dangerous message that public officials are not held to the same standards as citizens. Okay, so what on earth was going on in Parliament during the sit-in on June 17? I mean, wow. Wow. There was actually an article by Lloyd Smith in The Observer, and I'm going to read you a little bit of that. He says, exchanges during that stormy session got so heated and uncontrollable that House Speaker Juliet Holness had to suspend the sit-in for 5 minutes. A wise decision, as members on both sides of the House chomped at the bit as all hell broke loose. Deputy Leader of Opposition Business in the House, Natalie Nita Garvey, is to be commended for her timely and reasoned interventions, delivered in a calm and professional manner, which helped to guide the House Speaker along a less confrontational path. He goes on to say that there are those who have been arguing that in a male-dominated House, such as ours, the Speaker, being a woman, is at a distinct disadvantage. In this vein, her situation becomes even more volatile as she is the wife of the Prime Minister, the big elephant in the room, which will not go away. Speaker Holness continues to try desperately to do her job, relying forcefully and sometimes fiercely on the standing orders. When all is said and done, she must be congratulated for her consistency in this regard, although at times a more discretionary approach could help to diffuse the tension that persistently exists between her and the opposition members, especially the freshly minted ones, who continue to go on the defensive based on her many rulings with which they may not find favour. It's safe to say that while she remains in this post, she will continue to be a lightning rod, and the time may well come when, in the nation's interest, it may prove wise and prudent for Prime Minister Holness to revisit this controversial decision. Now, June 23 was, less chaotic, right? There's a couple of sectoral presentations to mention. Ian Hales, MP for Westmoreland Western and opposition spokesperson on water and special projects, pretty much hit the nail on the head when he said, I stand here today in what I consider to be an honourable House. I sit here week after week and cannot help but think that week after week we do our Jamaican brothers and sisters a great disservice by fueling a narrative that all we do is fight in Parliament. Some even call us the gangs of Gordon House. Yet I know we can send a better message. We have to ensure that when we come to this House to meet and the bright lights turn on for the sitting of Parliament, we shine bright and positive also. We are on 2 separate tracks. We have different belief systems, so my approach is simple. I came here to work. The people of Western Westmoreland expect me to work, so we must work together. We can agree to disagree. It doesn't stop the work of the people. His sectoral presentation was very on point. He discussed the efficiency of using other power sources for the distribution of water, such as solar, Kawen light gun, water gun, confirming also that the NWA currently pays JPS $1 billion a month, right? He also discussed how constituent ganja farmers are being arrested and are distressed over the burning of their ganja fields. That's still a one. He said he's never seen the police burning cane fields or arresting cane farmers, even though cane produces rum, and rum causes harm, can cause harm. Bauxite production has hurt Jamaica. His words, I'm continuing, but it is still encouraged and supported. Tobacco is imported and planted and comes with health warnings, yet not burned. Yet ganja has never hurt anyone. He urges the freeing up of the industry and licensing and working with farmers of this country. He acknowledged the CLA, the Cannabis Licensing Authority, and the board, and Ministers Auburn Hill and Seavright for assisting in trying to ensure small community farmers can be legalised and farm without fear of jail, fines or fields being burned. He went on to say that the government has over 425 hectares in Westmoreland, most of which is considered idle land. He's saying put legalised farmers to work. Let's not fool ourselves, he said. When we sell tourism, we sell sun, sea, reggae and ganja. One of the reasons tourists come to Jamaica is the herb. By the way, New Jersey has a regulated cannabis market of more than 300 licensed dispensaries across the state, right? In 2025, New Jersey cannabis industry, it generated more than 1.16 billion in sales. And 67.5 million of that was sales tax. Okay, the next sectoral presentation that I wanted to mention was by the Member of Parliament for Portland Eastern and opposition spokesperson on youth and human rights, Isat Buchanan. Probably the only member of the opposition who can make the speaker smile. He put on what can only be described as one ratted sectoral presentation, and his father, Big Ute, was in the house. Okay, so his presentation included safety in schools, accountable timetables regarding education, youth unemployment and lack of opportunity, special education, childhood institutions, and the road to republic. Yes! I've been waiting that. Okay, I'm going to share some of his presentation with you. He said, time has come for all decolonization, to free ourselves of the crown while keeping a British court as the court of last resort, is to change the symbol and keep the substance. With regard to that phased approach, Mr. Buchanan went on to say that the opposition doesn't accept that a nation should be asked to complete its independence in installments, deferring the most practical act of sovereignty, control of our own final justice, to a phase that may never come. Phase 2 is where good intentions go to wait. He also went on to say that this work resumes where serious constitutional work has always succeeded, leader to leader at Vale Royal, and not delegated as though it were routine department business left to the Minister of Justice for just deal with it. The Constitution is much more important than that. And on the issue of the final court, he made 2 points. First of all, the litigant who cannot afford London is in practice shut out of his own final court. Severing appeal to the Privy Council and vesting final appellate jurisdiction in the Caribbean Court. It makes sense. A court substantially funded, staffed and led by the region. He said it's that act that brings the court within reach of the average system. It's that act that brings the court within reach of the average citizen, he said, and I will just say humbly, decolonization does not reach the poor. Decolonization that does not reach the poor is decoration. He also went on to say that the Privy Council has given guidance in the Jamaica Council for Human Rights case. We can do it without bringing it to a referendum, but it takes courage. And we were all voted here and put into this house, and we should exercise that courage. He went on to say, a generation that has never tested its institutions is watching to see whether constitutional reform will be cosmetic or genuine. If we are open in the Constitution, let us be brave enough to address what the people have repeatedly told the posters that they want. We must think of human dignity. We must think of the right to life. We must think of freedom of expression. But most importantly, when the book is open and the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs starts to do this, we must think of term limits. We must think of fixed dates for general elections, integrity and campaign finance reform, constitutional entrenchment of the Electoral Commission of Jamaica and the Office of the Public Defender, areas where the opposition believes that consensus is genuinely in reach. A settled answer on the nature of the presidency, protection of the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms, ensuring that the new constitution strengthens and never dilutes the rights of our citizens that our citizens already hold, consideration of the rights of the Maroons under the 1738 treaty. Much of this ground has already been walked, and the opposition does not begin from zero. The Reform Committee has deliberated the form of the presidency, distinguishing an executive president from a purely ceremonial one. It's favoured Jamaican rather than Commonwealth. It's favoured Jamaican rather than Commonwealth citizenship as the qualification to sit in our parliament, with a test of allegiance for those with dual citizenship. He goes on to say, we start these conversations from consensus already built. The opposition only asks that the government have the nerve to carry that consensus the full distance and the generosity to add to it the reforms the people themselves keep asking for. Every advance in our constitutional history has been bipartisan. Independence itself rested on the cooperation of Manley and Bustamante. The reforms of the 1990s carry the names of Patterson and Seaga. The Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedom in 2010, perhaps the final constitutional achievement of the modern era, was passed by a partnership between the JLP Prime Minister and PNP Leader of Opposition. Not one of these was the work of a single party in a single term. The Republic will be no different. It will be built by both sides, or it will not be built at all. And he goes on to ask the question, will the Constitution we hand them, the young people that is, be the full inheritance of a free people, or half-finished decolonisation that left the most practical sovereignty for another day? Jamaica's on the road to becoming a republic, and the Porsche broke down. Can't find no driver, no qualified mechanic about. Road full of big pothole. And the biggest one, of course, is the CCJ. I'm going to conclude with the words of the Honourable Isat Buchanan, Member of Parliament for Portland Eastern. Bring back the bill in a form that completes the work, and let this Parliament, in which neither side can act alone, do together what neither side can do apart. Let us finish the unfinished circle of independence. Remember, if you're not registered to vote, September 30, 2026 is the deadline to register for the November 30th, 2026 voters list. You can find this podcast on YouTube, Buzzsprout, Spotify, Podcast Index, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Apple, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. And if you want to reason about anything, or you can't find any of the material I was talking about, you can email me on melanie.atasteofja@gmail.com. That's melanie.atasteofja@gmail.com. So until the next time, thank you for supporting this podcast. Please subscribe, like, follow, and share it with your family and friends. And again, I thank you for taking the time to listen. One love. Yes, the word is love.